What is going on, guys? It is SJB Santos, the social media manager here at Bosco Esports, and today we'll be looking at another playoff game for the League of Legends Gold team's playoff run. Now, we did upload a video yesterday covering the match that we had against the Indy E-sixers second team, and that match was to get into the top 8 of the playoffs. This one is actually the match that we had before that match, which was in the top 16, to get to the top 16, I believe. And this one is actually against the Indy E-sixers first team. So, you know, they have their little category of teams, you know, kind of like the varsity JV structure, but for them, they labeled it as first team, second team. So this will be a casting over the first team. And since it is after the uploading of the second one, we'll be taking a look at a playback rather than doing it live. So yeah, without further ado, we'll get right into it right after the intro. All right, and we are in. So this is actually game number 3 of the series we have against the first team of the Indy E-sixers. The first one, they did take a win over us. They had an Anivia that was really troublesome for our goal team to deal with, and she ended up essentially dominating the game, and that gave the Indy E-sixers first team a lead over Bosco, with the first game being won by them. Luckily, we did manage to go ahead and turn that around in the second game. We banned out the Anivia, and we were able to dominate the game to the point where it was finished relatively early. But now, in this context, series is 1-1. This is the deciding match of the series, right? This is game point. Now, since we did go ahead and get into the top 8 in the state by defeating the Indy E-sixers second team in the game after this, we do know that we did eventually win this game as well, but we still do want to cast over it. So we're going to go ahead and analyze what we've got on the map right now. We have Jackie Love in the top lane yet again on his Aatrox. We saw the Aatrox in the yesterday's video, and we saw how well he did on that champion. He's very well versed in him, and he knows the ins and outs of playing Aatrox. It looks like the enemy top laner for the Indy E-sixers is playing Tom Kench. Tom Kench recently seeing a little bit of a spike in gameplay. I believe he did get reworked, so some of his abilities have changed. Looking at jungle, we have Bosco's side with an Echo taking over the jungle, and a familiar pick by the Indy E-sixers. We do see that they have a Xin Zhao, which I believe we saw in one of the games of yesterday's casting. We did see the Indy E-sixers second team play that. In the mid lane, we have Bosco's side taking a Riven, which is an unfamiliar champion for the YouTube space. I don't think we've ever seen a Riven get played in the mid lane, but I believe that Kaysen does have quite a bit of experience in playing Riven, so this should be just fine. The enemy mid laner playing a Veigar, and look at the ball lane matchup. We do have a Vayne for Gabe, a Nautilus for Aiden, along with the enemy team actually playing a slightly off meta, not too off meta, but a composition that does have really good synergy with each other. We have the Alistar and the Yasuo. Alistar being able to proc off Yasuo's ultimates, and Yasuo just having the damage to back it up. So really, really strong composition in the bot lane for the Indy E-sixers. Yeah, but to just take a look at the enemy mid lane composition yet again, we do see that there is yet another sort of stacking champion. It does seem like this is a recurring theme for the Indy E-sixers. They did play Nasus in both games for their second team against us, and it looks like they're playing Vigar in this match, which, if you don't know, every time Vigar... Oh, actually, we just got a first blood in the enemy red jungle. Aatrox following up with Kaysen's Riven, giving Kaysen a first blood advantage. Although he is down in CS, down in the mid lane, he did manage to get a little first blood there. Bot lane having a little bit of a trade going on, nothing too big, but some relatively good poke there by Bosco Esports. But yeah, going back to what I was talking about, the Veigar kind of function is in a similar way that the enemy Nasus did. Oh, actually, bot lane, the Alistar engaging, but relatively low HP, means he's going to have to flash out of that. Vayne still retains his flash, but unfortunately Yasuo has his up, so he's just going to be able to pick up that kill and clean it up. And Aiden forced to back up. Oh, it looks like the Yasuo is not just yet done poking down Aiden. And that is a 1-for-1 exchange in the bot lane. But yeah, Vigar, a stacking champion, works in the same manner that Nasus does. The further you get into the game, the more powerful he becomes. And the way it works is, I believe, getting kills with Vigar's Q ability, which is where he shoots out like a little projectile of dark matter or something like that. Every time he kills a minion or a jungle monster or a boss or even a champion, in the same manner that Nasus works, he gains a bit more ability power, which is what this champion scales off of. Ability power is equivalent to magic damage, and the more magic damage Vigar does, the more his abilities are gonna stack up in damage wise, to the point where his R, which is essentially just a point and click burst ability, can essentially one-shot squishy champions like the Vayne, for example, or maybe even the Riven. So yeah, definitely have to watch out for the stacks there. Don't want this Vigar to get out of hand, like we did see that Nasus make a return. Bot lane, Aiden actually going in with a hook, trying to engage on the Yasuo. Windwall goes up, doing a really good job at blocking off Vayne's auto attacks. Teleport comes in by the Tahm Kench. But luckily, Echo is there to kind of assist his team. We did get a teleport down in the ball lane by Jackie Love, but doesn't look like they'll be able to do anything because the enemy Xin Zhao has made his way ball lane to kind of even out the numbers. And the Indy E-sixers first team get away with a kill on the Vayne. Both top laners forced to teleport down to the ball lane to kind of help out their team respectively. Looks like we do have Kaysen roaming down ball lane. We do see him on the river on the tribe bush. Looks like he might try to engage here. Kaysen does have his ultimate. Now, if he plays this right, he could potentially get multiple kills here. Gets a kill onto the Xin Zhao immediately with his R. Aatrox coming in, hits a W, and Kaysen able to clean that up really cleanly. Triple kill for the Riven in the middle lane. Now 4-0 with a 400 gold bounty on her head. Looks like they're not done quite yet though. Yasuo trying to run away, but he does have an Aatrox and a Riven on top of him. Doesn't look like escape is very likely, and the Yasuo goes down. That is a 4-for-0 exchange there in the bot lane. With that being done, Yasuo is now on a timer. Alistar is still on his way down to the bot lane, and that means that this is a open window opportunity for Bosco to pick up the first dragon of the game, 7 minutes in. Ocean Dragon going to be a little bit helpful in just keeping Bosco's laners at a healthy HP count there. For those of you that don't know, Ocean Drake, when you are out of combat, provides a little buff that kind of replenishes your HP and mana a little bit quicker. Roberto getting a gank off in the mid lane, unfortunately not able to finish it off. That R that we just saw right there, that huge burst of damage, is what I was talking about. You do need to be careful with that. Veigar is already on the path to becoming really strong, really scary. So we have to play that a little bit carefully. Roberto doesn't have his R, so it's a bit dangerous. Bit of a gamble to get a gank off in mid there, but luckily was able to flash away and stay healthy. Alistar going back in onto the Vayne, but Vayne getting an E off on the Yasuo, exhaust going off on the Vayne. Gabe has to try to get out of this somehow. Aiden doing his best to try to keep him alive. Fortunately, Gabe did sidestep that tornado, but he did end up going down regardless. And Indy E-sixers first team gets a 2-for-0 exchange there in the bot lane. Now, as we said, this is a bit of an off-meta pick. I mean, typically you have an AD carry, which is a ranged attack damage dealer, as your damage output in the bot lane. Now, obviously, we see that the enemy team does not have ranged ADC. They do have a Yasuo instead, but the Yasuo just has so much synergy with the Alistar that it works just as well as a normal team composition. Mid lane here at a standstill. Kaysen slowly but surely pushing into the enemy turret. We see on the map that most of the Indy E-sixers wards are towards the top side of the map. They may be trying to maybe look for a Rift Herald here anytime soon. We see Kaysen in the bottom blue side jungle, potentially looking for either a gank on the enemy bot lane or perhaps maybe just take some camps. Doesn't look like he'll be doing either though. Should get spotted out by a ward that he's just traveling across on his way mid. And back to mid we are. We see in the top there, Echo actually making a little bit of an aggressive invade onto the Xin Zhao's red side jungle. Actually hopped over a wall. We see a gank coming out here in the mid lane. Echo landing his 3-hit proc, I believe. You can kind of phrase it like that, but essentially every time that Echo hits an ability, there's a ring that pops out on your enemy that you hit. Once you have 2 of those rings, if you hit them one more time, your next attack deals extra damage. So he's able to pop that up, get a little bit more damage onto the mid lane, giving Kaysen some mid pressure. And since we know that Xin Zhao is in the bottom side jungle, we do see that Roberto on the Echo is up on the Rift Herald. Should be a free objective for Bosco's side. CS wise, looks like top lane Jackie Love with a CS advantage as usual. It's been really common to see, especially in the last, well not last, I guess it'd be the future games that we saw. Hold that thought, but that's what we were talking about right there. Alistar actually just getting that pulverize up on the Yasuo, and Yasuo just able to act on it, getting an ultimate off Alistar's engage, but it doesn't look like they were able to quite finish it. Yasuo does not have his one wall. One more auto is going to kill that Yasuo if Aiden is able to land it, but unfortunately Alistar doing a really good job of kiting that out. Echo gets a little bit too overconfident, goes under the tower and ends up dying. Looks like Xin Zhao is now in the bot lane trying to catch out the 2 members of Bosco's bottom side, but luckily wasn't able to slow them even after the flash. That is a flash after Xin Zhao. Kaysen getting an engage up on the mid lane, misses ultimate, not going to be able to finish it off. Unfortunately, it was really close in that mid lane, but also bot lane was really dangerously close to getting caught out there. Xin Zhao forced to try to flash, try to get a chance at slowing, I believe it was Gabe. I mean, not Gabe. Aiden, who was behind Gabe. Fortunately, he did miss, and Bosco was able to walk out of that without any worries. Can't see the same for the Echo though. I think he overstepped just a little bit too much, dove under the enemy mid lane tower, and ended up dying in the process. We see Echo routing his way back to the mid lane, but decides it's not the best idea just yet, but maybe it is. E is wasted on the Veigar. He has nothing to stop this gank, has to flash out, and that is a very worth gank right there. Veigar flash is down, provides a little bit of flash pressure from Kaysen, who still has his flash up. Alistar getting some vision control down there in the bot lane. Want to make sure that Bosco isn't able to freely control the bot side river. Fire Drake is up, a very valuable dragon. We do see that some members of the Indy E-sixers first team is rotating towards it. We see some MI pings going on in the bot lane from presumably Vayne or the Nautilus, but it looks like Bosco isn't able to catch up to the Indy E-sixers in time, and they pick up a Fire Dragon in response to Bosco's Ocean Drake. 1-1 drag, 12 minutes in. Veigar really good at landing these E's, but since that's been used, that means he doesn't have anything to stop this gank if it goes on. Kaysen getting relatively low, but Veigar, even with his R up, isn't able to get a kill there, and that is another kill yet again for Kaysen's Riven. That is a 5-0 Riven with 500 gold bounty on top of his head. That is a really scary thing to see. Looks like Jackie Love in a 1v1 engage up top, but Tom Kent is notoriously strong in these 1v1s, considering his gray matter HP, kind of allows him to heal back up after an exchange, after not taking damage for a certain amount of time. So really, really strong champion for 1v1s if he is able to patiently deal with these engages. But Jackie Love actually able to get a really good turnaround on this Tahm Kench, able to get him down to about, let's say, about 40% HP. We do see the Alistar in the bush, gets the ultimate off on the Nautilus, but I don't think that was the best target for that Yasuo. Teleport coming in the bot lane from Jackie Love. Teleport actually canceled, presumably by the Tahm Kench, and Aiden lands a hook to the Alistar. That should be a free kill for either Kaysen or Gabe. Gabe picks it up. He is now 2 and 3. Jackie Love doing a really good job at kind of baiting that out, staying alive long enough for the Echo to come up top. Provides some little bit of support. Gets a blue smite off onto the Xin Zhao, slowing him in the process. One left. Echo ult, get a little bit more damage onto the Tahm Kench, and that is a 2 for 0 in the top lane. We do see a Veigar going through the tri-bush. Potentially, there's a potential double kill right there for Veigar if Bosco plays this wrong, but looks like Kaysen's going to come up top, kind of provide a little bit of backup there. Make sure Veigar doesn't just R someone and gets an easy kill. Echo taking advantage of Xin Zhao's death timer. Veigar not just, actually looks like he might be going back, might have caught one of that. Ball lane Yasuo trying to get an engage onto the Nautilus. Nautilus does have his shield up along with the hookers on the wall. Does get hit by another tornado. He might, nope. Fortunately able to go just out of Alistar's pulverized range and able to walk away safely from that engage. But bot lane proving to be a lot more Yasuo actually ulting under the turret. Must have been a misplay there. Yasuo goes down immediately. This Alistar is not going to be able to survive as well. And Veigar on his way to the ball lane along with Xin Zhao coming in for the bottom river. Vayne in a precarious situation. He has to make his way back to the tower soon, because that Xin Zhao is there. Doesn't look like he'll be able to unless he has flash. Doesn't look like it is up, and unfortunately Gabe does go down. A kill picked up for Veigar. Fortunately, while Veigar was bot lane, Kaysen took advantage of the situation and pushed mid, taking tier 2 and tier 1 towers. So, not the worst trade in the world. Bosco still able to get something out of that. Look at the CS yet again. Looks like Jackie Love is widening the gap between him and Tahm Kench. 122 CS to 77. Echo maintaining a really good CS lead. 102 to 81. Sorry, the enemy's Xin Zhao. Kaysen actually stealing the blue buff from the enemy's Xin Zhao. Huge deficit for that Xin. Mid lane, Kaysen was doing a relatively worse job at CSing than the Veigar, but luckily it does look like he is able to close that gap up, just 7 CS behind the enemy Veigar. And bot lane, Gabe a little bit behind in CS, but nothing that should be too worrisome. He does have a really good support for peeling, along with a fed Riven 5-0 in the mid lane, so nothing too crazy. Red ward in the bottom brush getting picked away by Yasuo and Alistar. Bot lane does know that they are back in the lane, and they take vision control there in the bot lane. Looks like Tahm Kench is making his way towards the bot lane. They do see that the Nautilus and Vayne are overextending just a little bit, but he is walking over a few wards. Nautilus is going to meet up with him there in the tri-bush. Fortunately, get caught out, knocked up, and ulted by the Yasuo. Tries to get an ultimate away, time to buy himself a little bit more time, but Aatrox is here to provide us a little bit of support. Able to take down the Yasuo almost immediately. Doesn't look like they're focusing the Vayne, and so that's a huge mistake. Indy E-sixers just leaving this Vayne to do as much damage as he wants from the back line. And they're not going to be able to get out of this alive. Doesn't look like. Ooh, Vayne actually rolling into the Veigar W. Insert. Actually going down. A little bit of a misplay there by Gabe, but fortunately the rest of Bosco is able to clean up. Kaysen getting caught out there in the trap there, but nothing the rest of his team can't handle, and that is an ace for 2 kills for Bosco's side. Looks like Jackie Love is heading either towards the top lane or the Rift Herald, while the Echo and Riven make sure they take this Wind Dragon. That is another objective picked up for the side of Bosco. 18 minutes in, 2 dragons under their belt. Looks like on the map there we do have our Aatrox going for the Rift Herald. It should be a double objective pickup here. Potentially a push either in the bot or mid lane maybe, or maybe even top. Not sure where he plans to take that Rift Herald. Xin Zhao just clearing his jungle there. Alistar and Yasuo now back in their lane, protecting their bottom tier 2 tower. Rift Herald has been picked up by Aatrox, so if he does get a good exchange somewhere that allows for a little bit of an opening, he should be able to get a tower or 2 with that Rift. Looks like another team getting too aggressive here, aside from Kaysen in the mid lane getting pretty confident in his abilities. He is 6-0. I can see why he is able to just step up like that to a Veigar especially. Alright, just about getting to the 20-minute mark here. We do see that the Baron is now in play. At the 20-minute mark, we no longer have Rift Heralds on the map, rather a Baron that provides a huge buff on the team. Looks like Jack Love actually coming down to the bot lane along with Kaysen, trying to get a dive here onto the enemy bot lane. He also goes down first. Tom Kench actually set the supporting enough from the bot, but it looks like he just came down here to die. Vayne's damage is way too much, and nobody's focusing, putting any pressure on the lane. Being able to just do so much damage in the back lane freely. He has to be careful with his Veigar though, because that Veigar is essentially the enemy of all ADCs. Kaysen chasing down that Veigar, not able to catch him just quite though. He does still have an E in the case that they do manage to catch up to him, but Bosco able to fight a 4v5, getting 4 kills under their belt while only losing 2 of their members and having 1 in the top lane. Should be a huge boon there for Bosco. Maybe even the top tower if Veigar doesn't decide to go for it, but does look like he's rotating up there to try to protect that tier 1 top tower. The Indy E-sixers just kind of letting Gabe go wild. It doesn't look like there's a lot of pressure being applied onto Gabe, so him being Vayne and just slowly but surely becoming more and more of a threat as we get further into the game. Leaving a Vayne alone in the back line just to do free damage is a really, really bad idea. It's really dangerous. So we do see that there are some highlighted towers on the map. I believe that is the new bounty system, seeing as the highlighted towers are on the blue side. It means that the Indy E-sixers have a chance to gain a little bit extra gold from towers, considering they are the team that is furthest behind in this match. We do see that same highlight around the Baron as well. So Indy E-sixers definitely looking to make some plays around the map, get that extra gold into their pocket and hopefully close up the gold lead. We do see that Bosco is at about 42.7 thousand gold, while the Indy E-sixers are at about 32.6, just a little over a 10,000 gold difference in the favor of Bosco. Rift Herald going up in the top lane, getting a kill on the tier 1 top tower, getting a little bit of extra damage onto the inhibitor turret as well. Great value on that Rift Herald. Bot lane making a push towards the tier 1 bot tower as well. Yasuo and Veigar forced to go down bot to try to defend that. Like Veigar has found the Nautilus, unfortunately not able to land his W, and bot lane will just walk away. Ooh, actually catching the Vayne out in the E, but doesn't look like they're able to act upon it. That could have been really, really bad for Gabe there, but fortunately he was able to dodge the W inside and able to get out with all of his HP still intact. like the Wind Dragon has just come up. Doesn't look like Indy E-sixers are in any sort of position to try to contest this dragon, and Bosco will pick up their third dragon of the game relatively for free. Not much opposition there, but Bosco making their way towards the Baron Pit. Does look like the Indy E-sixers have some sort of idea of where they're at. Alistar go ahead and scanning this brush, finds the Aatrox. Aatrox doing a really good amount of damage to Alistar despite being a tank. Alistar down about half HP. Looks like the Indy E-sixers do think that Bosco is trying to do Baron, but Bosco just way too quick, melting that Baron down before they could even try to steal it or contest it. So Bosco in a really good position here. 5 Baron buffs on the map. 8-0 and 4 Ribbon, 5 and 5 Vayne, 4 and 1 Echo, 3-1 and 12 Aatrox. Bosco roster looking really scary. Aatrox in the ball lane actually managed to get a first Q off onto the Yasuo. Yasuo actually getting hit by that W, forced to flash out, forced to use Ignite on the Aatrox in hopes of staying alive. Aatrox gets thrown back by the Alistar, and Yasuo lives to see another day, forced to use both his summoners to do so though. You can see just how big of a threat JackeyLove is. It's like the majority of the Indy E-sixers putting all their efforts into defense. Aatrox, Nautilus actually getting ulted by the Yasuo, but huge Nautilus ultimate there, able to peel for himself and buy himself some time to live. Doesn't look like JackeyLove is quite done yet. Actually flashes into the middle of the enemy team, but overestimates his damage, ends up going down to the Yasuo, but Kaysen is right there, right behind him to kind of back up that damage. And they pick up 2 kills for 1 there. Making a push towards the inhibitor tower. Ribbon actually getting caught out by the Veigar there and forced to come back. Also getting a little bit aggressive, hoping to hit the Vayne, and Gabe actually rolled into that. Regardless though, he did do a really good job at kiting. He managed to kill the Yasuo, but unfortunately not able to escape the wrath of the Alistar, and Gabe unfortunately ends up going down with Aiden forced to back to base. Successful push though. We do see that on the top side of the enemy base. We have managed to take an inhibitor down. We did get some good damage onto the bottom inhibitor. And we still do have, I believe, 1 or 2 more Baron buffs on the map. So we could play around the Baron buffs that are still on the Echo and Nautilus. We still could potentially utilize it until the timer runs out. Looks like there was a disconnection onto the side of Indy E-sixers. Yasuo having some connectivity issues. Looks like this is paused for a while, so I'll just go ahead and put on the intro, and we'll be right back when the pause is over. Alright, we're just about back in the same spot where we were before the pause. Yasuo has reconnected, I do believe. Yeah, Indy E-sixers still on the defense. Looks like they're just kind of turtling up in their base right now, trying to stop any pushes that Bosco might want to try to make. Wind Dragon respawning in about 1 minute and 10 seconds. Baron's up in about 240. Big objectives coming up with the map. We'll see how the Indy E-sixers go ahead and react to that. They are kind of pushed back into their base a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to try to contest any sort of push that Bosco might make. They might send 1 to the base to kind of put some pressure on to the Indy E-sixers, make sure they can't make any sort of countermeasure to stop Bosco from securing any objective. But we'll see how the Indy E-sixers respond to this. Wind Dragon coming up in about 30 seconds here. We do see Bosco kind of rotating their way towards this specific side of the map. Want to make sure that they are able to secure that. It should be the 4th dragon of the game. Next one will be Sol if the game manages to go that long. Looks like all 5 members of Bosco are at the dragon page. Doesn't look like they'll be sending anyone to kind of try to distract the Indy E-sixers. Looks like the super minions from the top lane will be more than enough to prevent them from coming out of their base. And Bosco able to secure a 3rd Wind Dragon, 4th dragon of their game, without much contention. Echo making his way bot lane. Looks like he might be able to get a little bit of damage off on the Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao actually 1 HP. Echo a little bit too overconfident, stunned inside of the Veigar cage, unable to use his R to get himself back to safety, and gives up a free kill there. Unfortunately, overstepped just a little bit too far, got a little bit too overconfident in his abilities, and ends up paying the price for that carelessness. As we approach the 30-minute mark here, we do have Baron respawning in about 40 seconds. We see right next to the Baron timer that the Elder Dragon is now respawning in about 5 minutes. If the game does go that long, Bosco should be able to secure that, add a little bit of a buff to their already existing passives that they gained from the dragons. Veigar trying to get a cheeky E there. Luckily, Kaysen is just in between it, doesn't get stunned. So nothing's going to come out of that. Five seconds on the respawn of Baron. Indy E-sixers do realize just how important this objective is. Looks like they're slowly making their way towards it, but Bosco has really high damage output. So Indy E-sixers either have to make a move or just give it up completely. Looking at the Baron HP, it is about half. Doesn't look like the Indy E-sixers will be able to do anything. And that is a 5-man Baron buff yet again for the side of Bosco. And with this, potentially could make a final push here to end the game. Looks like Ribbon actually getting a really good 4-man stun there. Team fight has broken out. Vayne yet again being allowed to roam freely in the back. Looks like Xin Zhao is applying a little bit of pressure, but unable to get a kill there. And all 5 members of Bosco still alive. Kaysen flashing in, gets a stun off onto the Veigar. Veigar is still outputting a large amount of damage. Kaysen does end up going down. 2 turrets are still up, putting constant damage onto the side of Bosco. 4 members still alive. Nautilus relatively low, kind of dangerous for him there. Echo pops his R just in time to get out of the Veigar ability. Veigar gets another kill onto the Vayne, but does eventually go down, and that should just be it. Bosco gets an ace and manages to finish off the game and series with a win. And with that, we have concluded our series against the Indy E-sixers. Same thing with the Indy E-sixers second team that we ended up playing in the series after this, but Bosco is able to take a W here, 2-1. Indy E-sixers putting up a really good fight. We did see that Veigar was doing really well, ended up with about a 7-3 KDA, 7-3 and 3 KDA in that match. So really scary team when it comes to champions at scale. We did see some sort of similar performance with the Nasus in the second game of the Indy E-sixers series with their second team. So shout out to Indy E-sixers. They're a really good team, really difficult to play against, especially that Nivea. Nivea gave us a lot of trouble. We did end up having to ban her in the second and third, I believe, games of this series because she just gave us so much trouble in that first game. But yeah, Bosco Esports doing a really good job, still in the playoffs. Stay tuned next week for Monday and Wednesday's game. Hopefully, we do win those. We should be able to get into the finals. I believe we'll be going up against the number 6 and number 2 teams ranked in this bracket. So we'll see how that goes. Should be fun to watch. It should be a difficult match for Bosco Esports, but we have done upsets before. I believe we can do it again. So stay tuned for next week's videos. It should be exciting, and thank you for watching.